Hi, this is Levi Doherty, coming here after coming back from Malawi, Africa. And I've been getting a lot of questions about certain things I've been talking about. One, particularly, many of the comments have been about Noah. Uh, and I believe that Noah's situation is not talked about a lot. But it was the greatest reset for God's creation in the cosmos before the coming of Jesus. And when you think about that, what does quite that mean? What does that mean? It meant that God saw that the world was going awry after the fall. And the great grandson of Enoch was Noah. And the Bible says in the 6th chapter of Genesis that Noah was righteous and perfect. I don't know how much better you can get than that. And he trusted Noah and he made a covenant with Noah. After he saw that the world was wicked, and he said he was sorry that he had made man. And he decided to make a reset with Noah to have a 40-day period. But before that, it took uh, somewhere around 100 years before Noah could build the ark that God had commanded him to build. And so, in the process, I don't know how he did it, but you can clearly see that he was the first scientist or carpenter, whatever, in history, because most of the time in that period of time, people lived in tents or in caves. And he builds this incredible structure that will hold animals and his family. If you build something in those days just to hold your family, that's quite a miracle. But to hold animals as well. I don't really know how many, two by two, of every animal that existed. I don't think that happened, but in that area for sure, that happened there. So, what is the significance of this 40-day separation from everything in isolation on the water and the flood during the raining time? It was because God wanted to do a reset, to start all over again. And he said the same thing with Noah after the flood. He said, be fruitful, multiply, and take dominion and rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, over every living creature that moves along the ground. The same commandment he gave Adam and Eve. This was interesting. And so in this time, it really is a reset for God to start over again. And what God did to assure that this covenant with Noah was secure, uh, the Bible says he put a rainbow in the sky. Now, what happens here is very unique. After all of that time, all of that hard work, now Noah has completed the task. And he's changing over from a satanic lineage of those who are out there acting crazy and doing all kinds of sinful things to a new lineage. And that new lineage is the changing of the blood lineage. So, this concept of drinking wine was the symbolic to changing the blood lineage. when and the reason why the wine is important because it goes into your bloodstream, and you can tell if you're drinking alcohol, and the alcohol gets into your bloodstream, you know that you are drunk. And so therefore it has saturated your body, and in the process it has inebriated you, so you know that has happened to you. And so the wine represents that. You have to be inebriated in the new lineage of God. So that people get, oh, he got drunk and he found out he got naked. No, let me explain this. In Genesis, it says Adam must leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and they become one flesh, and they were naked and unashamed. Well, after the fall, Adam was was in the garden, and he was hiding because he was naked and he was ashamed. So the shame came in after the fall. Noah was reversing that process and relieving humanity from the shame because God made Adam naked. It wasn't a big deal at all. They were not ashamed. But after the fall, the shame came upon nakedness. So Noah was laying in his tent on the altar of God, reclaiming his reproduction organs, offering it back to God as a pure offering, where God can use Noah's reproduction organs to reproduce children in the image and likeness of God. There's no other way that you can bring people on the earth but through your sexual organ. You're not considered naked unless that is exposed. Your breast can be out because you're nursing a child or whatever. That's not considered naked. When you go to the beach and people got one strip across their chest and the other strip between their legs, and they're not considered naked. But as long as your reproduction organ is exposed, it's then considered naked. So Noah was laying there naked. Why? Because he was offering his whole body, mind, heart, body, and soul, back to God as a pure offering to restart, to reboot the kingdom of heaven again, start it again. And you notice when that went awry, his two sons walked in and covered him up. Well, what happens when you cover up what you have put on the altar to offer to God? And who did it? Satan influenced um, the sons of Noah to do that. So then he reclaimed it. He reclaimed it at that moment. That is why every time God does something, what in order for that to be reversed, it's also a mockery to God. To to mock God's success and say, "I see you didn't succeed, I got it." And so therefore now we have the rainbow flag is a mockery to the covenant of God. It's not a flag of righteousness and goodness and holiness. It's not a. It's a flag recognizing I'm like sex a certain way. That's the exposure of it. That's all it is. It's not anything else. It's talking about sex in a way that the person want to have it, other than the way with a man and a woman. Now that's a mockery, right? Because God made man and woman and made them naked and unashamed. And so what has happened, Satan always come in and conquer and then mock God in his conquering. We need to take a look at this and see why that is always so pushing that concept in your face of the rainbow flag. They call it the gay pride flag. You can call it whatever you want. It's not a righteous thing. So if we understand the divine principle and how it works, it's always in order of gravity. It never changes. Once God says something, it's not God's changing his mind over this or that and the other. It is always the same. But God is so merciful and patient and kind. He's not going to kill people because they go against him. That rain was a natural occurrence in order. And it had to happen because the world had to reset itself because of the wickedness. God didn't have anything to do with that. The wickedness caused it. The energy and the constant vibration of wickedness will shake anything. If you go and talk to a plant responds in love. Everything responds in love. If you talk to it negatively, it will curl and die. So the earth responds to our energy, whatever energy we have. That's why it's always important to try to be as principled as possible. Because many times we think we're right, but we're not principled. You could be right, but not principled. But principle is always right. It's never maybe right or not wrong. You can mistreat the principle and make it out of religion or whatever you want, but the principle has no faith. It just is what it is. It's like science. The one thing about science is different from religion. Science bring everybody up to the same level. Religion does not do that. Science is always bringing everything up to a higher standard. Religion doesn't do that. It gives you a better, maybe a better feeling inside of yourself, but everybody don't feel the same way you feel or think the same way you think. But I was in Malawi, and it came to me, here's these young kids riding on the back of an oxen, on an oxen cart, and the oxen is pulling the cart down the road, and this kid is sitting up there with a cell phone on because of the new technology that science has brought. And that's amazing. People get upset with Elon Musk, but because of that satellite, he can make those calls. So even though as poor as Malawi is, they have all connected to the science of being able to communicate through the cell phone. What if we had one religion who could do that? That's why I stick with the divine principle. It doesn't need a religion. You just live by it, and you be okay. And that's a good point. Anyway, I hope I've answered some of the questions that was sent to me about Noah and why things went wrong. God bless you, and hope to see you again soon. Love you. Bye.